Well, hello, everybody. I'm getting ready to record episode number 81 of Mike in the Midwest. Lots to talk about the stuff we didn't get to on the podcast from Marathon Weekend. That's a dog tail right there. Yep, Riley's right here. Hi, Riley. She's trying to get on the show. All right, let's do this. Episode 81. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 81 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, this is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast since March of 2008, if you can believe it. 2,000 episodes ago, actually more than that at this point. And thank you for being along for the ride and for being one of our VIPs, for supporting everything we do. I cannot thank you enough for that. I'm going to reflect on that and tell you why your donations each month are so important and why they mean so much in just a little bit. But just thank you for being here. Thanks for being a supporter of the show here on Patreon. And I hope you enjoy these Mike in the Midwest episodes. Again, I know that I missed one last week. It was crazy with Marathon Weekend. I am going to make that up. So you're going to get that bonus show here in the next couple of weeks. My voice is still kind of wore out from screaming this past Sunday. As I finished the marathon, I went back into Epcot to finish watching everybody else kind of come in there in Mexico at mile 25.5. And yeah, I got a little excited and I screamed for about 2.5 to 3 hours as folks passed me by. And my voice still has not recovered. I kind of think it sounds a little bit better. It's kind of more of like a radio DJ voice, at least in my ears. It sounds more professional. Not that my words are more professional, but I like the way it sounds. I know it won't stay like this, but it is a little scratchy, and it's just one of those things. It's how I used to feel when I would go to Mizzou football games back when we were really good, back in like the 2013, 2014, and we'd sit on the hill and it'd just be 3 hours of every time we were on defense, I would just scream the entire game. And then the whole next week, I would pay for it. And hopefully the next week, it would be an away game so that my voice could recover for that week and things would bounce back. But yeah, this reminds me of the old days where, you just gave everything you had with your vocal cords and then you let them, you just kind of suffered for a few days and then eventually they bounce back. So it's getting better, I think. It was pretty rough as I recorded the shows on Monday, which was actually, we recorded the shows this week on Tuesday because I got back on Monday. But yeah, it was a fun marathon weekend. We're going to talk about some of those memories here. We're just kind of catching you up on what's going on here in Mike's life. This weekend, we are going to Indianapolis, Indiana for Jam Fest. Mallory's doing a big cheerleading competition. So I posted on social media earlier today that the reason I like to go to Jam Fest, besides for the whole competition and seeing all these amazing cheerleaders, because the best cheerleaders in the world do go to this competition. This is one of the biggest ones outside of the summit, which is the one that is in Walt Disney World in late April, early May. The world's teams go to this one, which means they are the best teams in the world. And if you don't think that cheerleading is an athletic endeavor and you don't think these guys and gals are athletes, you need to go watch. Just go online and search Level 6 All-Star Cheer. Just look at Cheer Athletics, search Top Gun All-Stars, any of these squads, and you will see it's ridiculous. I mean, it's definitely a different kind of athletics than, like a baseball or a hockey or something like that. There's no way. Like the stuff they're doing, they're flying, they're jumping, they're flipping. It's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Like when you watch this stuff in person and the way they get you pumped up with the music they play for their 2.5 minute routine and how choreographed everything is. I knew nothing about cheerleading before Mallory did this because Paige was more of a team sport person. She played soccer, softball, basketball, that kind of stuff. And so that was my jam. I played those kind of sports growing up too. So that was Paige and I hit it off really well. I coached her teams when she was kids. I knew that kind of stuff. Cheerleading, I know nothing about, but I'm learning. And definitely athletes all around. So check it out. We'll be out in Indianapolis, Indiana. So if anybody is going to be out that way for Jam Fest at the Indiana Convention Center, which, by the way, was where the national championship game was held this past Monday. Congratulations to the Dogs for beating my Alabama Crimson Tide. Good game. Better team won. And I'm just sad college football's over. I love college football. I've told my wife this. If college football were a person, I'd have to marry it. I love it that much. I do love college football. All right, so that is where we're headed this weekend. Another news here. And speaking of Mike in the Midwest, we have snow in the forecast for St. Louis, Friday night into Saturday. And I'm telling you what, I don't know how it is wherever you live in the world. Whenever we get an accumulating snow in the forecast, I mean, it has been talked about for the past 3 or 4 days. Every newscast leads off with it. The models keep coming in. We're hearing about the European model, these other couple of models of how things are going to go. It's been like we're going to get 5 to 8 inches, then we're going to get less than an inch. And, it's going to happen out 100 miles to the west of us, then it's going to happen 200 miles north of us. Then we're like in the bullseye. It's been all over the place. I don't know what we're going to get. But the thing is, I don't know if like this is how it is where you live, but this is how it is. Again, this is Mike in the Midwest. This is a little show about how things are where I grow up and where I am right now. Is that as soon as there is the mention of accumulating snow, we lose our minds. Like it's the lead story on the news every time. And the grocery stores, you got to go get bread, you got to get milk. Which I was speaking with a listener on the show. We were recording a podcast this actually last night for this coming Monday. Her name's Taylor, and we were talking about this because they're going to get ice where she is in North Carolina. And the thing is, everybody goes out and buys perishables, right? Like milk. And the thing is, if you're going to get an ice storm, your electricity is likely to go out. So why would you go buy milk that could go bad when the electricity goes out? Never even thought about that. Now, here in St. Louis, it's usually cold enough. You can just put your milk on the back porch and just hope an animal doesn't get it, and you're probably good. But yeah, we're going to get some snow this weekend. So it's always exciting. I do like watching the snow fall. I wish I could have been. Other than I like that I was a teacher. I got to do that for 17 years. That was awesome. I really like teaching. Um, that was kind of a dream of mine. I got to do it for quite a long time. Got to meet my wife. We taught next door to each other. That was awesome. So that was a dream come true. I always wanted to work as a radio DJ. This is pretty close. Being a podcaster is like a poor man's radio guy. So I've kind of got to do that, kind of like my dad. My dad was in radio and still is. But I also would have loved to have been a meteorologist because I'm a weather nut. I watch the Weather Channel for fun. And when these snowstorms come, the reason I know that they've let off the news for the last 3 or 4 days about the snow is because I'm like locked in. And, everybody else, like I see Pete is here watching on YouTube as a recording. He's saying, don't mention the S word and hopefully it goes away. Now, if we're going to get snow, give me a foot. I drive a Jeep Wrangler. It's an old one. It's a 2012 Jeep Wrangler, but bring it on, man. I mean, tromp through that snow. I can get down to the QT. I'll be good. So, we'll see how it goes. It'll be a fun thing, and we'll see. But probably we'll be in Indianapolis. They'll get no snow. We'll get back to St. Louis. It'll be all gone. I'll miss all the fun. So that's the plan. Little snow. We'll be out east, out in Indy. Hopefully we'll get a bid to Summit this weekend. Who knows? That's the whole goal. So we can go to Walt Disney World this spring. But that's kind of where we are, and we're back for marathon weekend. So I'm going to give some just some thoughts of stuff we don't hit on Friday's podcast because we already recorded that with Scott, Pam, and Ricky. That comes out tomorrow. But I do want to hit the feedback. I love, love, love your feedback. So please do leave feedback over at patreon.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. This is from the show from a couple of weeks back where I talked about that magical intersection that we had when I was a kid here in North St. Louis County, where I grew up near Florissant, Missouri. And it was at the corner of Interstate 270 and New Halls Ferry Road. And it had everything. It had the Showbiz Pizza. It had the Shoney's. It had Target. It had Happy Joe's Pizza. It had Pope's Cafeteria. It had Central Hardware. It had an Applebee's. It had a Zantigos. It had a movie theater. It had Halls Ferry. Everything was on this one corner. And then we drove past it the other day when we were going to buy Mallory's birthday gift because we had to drive all the way into Illinois to find this one gift. It was the only place that had it because we were both sick and waited till the very last moment to get the gift. And everything's gone. Like I just pointed out, remember when that was this and that was that and that, but that was like the magical intersection. Like we spent so much time as kids right there at that corner. Everything was there, either that corner, that corner. I mean, just right within that intersection, it was there. And I got a lot of feedback on this one. It seems like everybody kind of had a magical intersection of their own. And I want to go over this real quick because I think this is super interesting because I like hearing about the dynamics of where you grew up too. Because Mike in the Midwest is about my corner of the world, but it's also about how it relates to your corner of the world as well. John Luther chimes in here. Thanks for being a patron. I appreciate that. Happy New Year. Sorry that the stomach bug over the holidays hit you, but glad you are mending. Yes, I bounced back. The intersection I remember in my hometown, just a short walk from the junior high and high school. One corner was the bowling alley slash arcade, where I spent an insane amount of time playing video games as a teen. Across the street, there was a McDonald's and a Kmart in the same plaza. I remember getting McDonald's for breakfast on special occasions as a kid. Maybe that occasion was we're just running late. Behind the Kmart, there were people. It was where people were challenged to meet after school to fight. I remember that in middle school. Like you'd always have the kids, like, all right, after school we're gonna rumble, and we did. We went to McDonald's. There was a McDonald's kind of across the street and down the road from our middle school, and yeah, I do remember people go there to fight. I mean, not the Kmart, the McDonald's. McDonald's was our fighting place. I never got any fights, but I always remember that's where people would go to fight. I fondly remember calling one bully out in front of his friends for not showing up. I hadn't gone either, but he figured he wouldn't be able to call the bluff. The other corners were less interesting with an apartment building and a gas station. I've not been there in at least 10 years. The bowling alley's still there, as it is a differently as is a differently owned gas station. The McDonald's has closed down and was vacant. The Kmart is still there, but shares space with a grocery store now. As much as it wasn't all that much changed, there was something sad about seeing the McDonald's closed, even though two local places that look good had opened up next to the bowling alley. Good luck to you and all the others who are making it down for marathon weekend. Yeah, I think there always is something sad about just seeing the change, right? I know, here's the thing. I think we all know this, right? We're all adults here. Things can't stay the same forever. Showbiz Pizza is not going to be there. I mean, I'm 48 years old. I'm looking at it through an 8-year-old's eyes, how magical showbiz was with video games and pizza and the Rock of Fire Explosion band. I mean, it's not going to be that way forever. But I think it's the sign of a great childhood is that we have those memories that are so fond that I wish I could go back and sit down and have dinner with my grandparents at Shoney's, because I just can't do that again. So I think the memories in my heart are really important, that I have those and that I long for that Shoney's to still be there, even though it's not on that corner. Jennifer Perry has a couple comments here. Says, congratulations on Marathon Weekend. Such an accomplishment to be proud of. I'm glad your stomach bug didn't keep you from the challenge. Thank you so much. I'm glad it didn't either. It cleared up about 36 hours before I had to head down. So right in time. She says also her town had a Showbiz Pizza, which had later turned into a local steakhouse where she worked during high school. I always find it interesting that the closet that ran behind the Showbiz animatronic band was used to store extra chairs. There was also a dollar movie theater next door where my sister and I would go after school sometimes to see second run movies, plus a Bennigan's Blockbuster Video and a Rocky Rococo pizza place. I've heard of that, Rocky Rococo. I've heard of that. I guess we had one in St. Louis, but I don't remember going there, but that name sounds kind of familiar. I don't know. The local steakhouse is still there, but everything else has changed in the last 30 years. Thanks for the fun walk down memory lane. Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for being a patron. Thanks for being here. And that's so cool that you worked at a place that used to be a Showbiz Pizza, and you the that's cool that the closet that ran behind the Rock of Fire Explosion band was used to store extra chairs. I would have loved to seen the whole building there, how that all worked. Kurt Long, Roll Tide. You know what? We had a tough go of it on Monday night. The injuries caught up to the Crimson Tide this at the national championship game. But you know what? We have the best coach of all time, best program ever, and look out next year. I mean, just continuously great squad. So we'll be fine. And Georgia was a good team. So props to Georgia. You guys played a good team. And SEC won anyway, so that's a good thing. Kurt says, hey, Mike, congratulations on the Dopey Challenge. Love seeing all the pictures. Growing up, we didn't have one intersection, but we had Highway 31 in Hoover, a suburb of Birmingham, Alabama. It had everything. We had a children's palace and a Toys R Us. So see, I thought Children's Palace might be only a St. Louis thing. Okay, so you guys had one too. We had a Children's Palace and a Toys R Us, multiple movie theaters, Showbiz Pizza, multiple putt-putt golf courses and arcades, and at the time, the largest mall in the Southeast, the River Chase Galleria. Most everything has turned into something different now. Have a great week, and thanks for the great shows. Kurt, thank you so much for being a patron, supporting everything we do. You know what? I'm going to do a show about putt-putt. because I have so many stories and I have a unique angle on putt-putt in St. Louis because my grandpa knew the owners and I had the run of the place when I was a kid. It was pretty awesome. Putt-putt was special. And I'm not talking just like in general putt-putt. I'm talking real putt-putt, like the franchise. We'll talk about that because I can do a whole show on that, and I'm going to. All right, Ashley also chimes in. She says, enjoy this week's podcast. Ashley Meisel, thank you for being a patron. I hate to hear that you've been so sick. I would love to get, let's see, I would get some core branded bottled water, Life Water or Smart Water, any of the bottled waters that have electrolytes. That's what I did. I just drank, it was called Propel. It was water that had electrolytes. I drank that like it was going out of business, and that really helped me kind of bounce back. She says it might be a good idea to try some of those liquid IV drink mixes that you shake into a water bottle. Ironically enough, that's what Scotty G was using all of Marathon Weekend. He kept using that liquid IV stuff. I kept drinking Propels. She says you can get them at Target, Walgreens, and Walmart. If you don't have time for an Amazon order, hope to see you Marathon Weekend. Take care and hydrate. And I did. And Ashley, hope you had a wonderful Marathon Weekend. Nicole Rice, thank you so much for being a patron here. She says Kmart had the absolute best sub sandwiches. That's number one. She put a list. Number two, our Children's Palace had a tunnel you could crawl through to enter the store. It was the best thing as a kid. I don't remember that about our Children's Palace. Did it have a tunnel? Now I'm freaking out. Like maybe it did. Maybe my mom didn't let me go through the tunnel, but that would have been awesome. See, stores are not as fun as they used to be. How cool is that? You go into a store through a tunnel. 3. Oh my God. I didn't even see this. She says 3. Rax is greater than Shoney's. Good luck at Marathon Weekend. It's going to be wonderful. Okay. Do you guys have Rax? Okay. So obviously, Nicole, I don't know where Nicole's from. Nicole, thanks for being a patron. Thanks for the feedback. So we had Rax, RAX. It was a restaurant we had it in St. Louis. It was like a roast beef place, as I can recall. It was right in front of my dentist office. And so when I would go to the dentist, we'd always, after going to the dentist, we'd either go to Long John Silver's or we'd go to Rax Roast. I think it was called Rax Roast Beef, actually. And it was so good. You're right. But you would sit down and there was a little bit fancier than like a Lion's Choice, which is our new kind of fast food roast beef place. But yeah, Rax, RAX. Did you guys have Rax? Rax was good. I haven't thought of Rax in 20, 25 years. Oh my gosh. This is why I love you guys. This is why I love this kind of crazy podcast where we can talk about just off the wall stuff. Rax roast beef. And I love Shoney's though. I'll tell you what, Shoney's is the place I used to work at the skating rink, right? I told you this. I ran a roller rink for years and years and years because my next door neighbors owned it. And Friday nights we had sessions from 7 to 11. And so I would DJ that session. I would just, I was the manager, so I just have to be there, but I DJ'd it because it just made the time go faster. It was a lot more fun. And we would have to clean up after the session. We'd usually get out of there about midnight by the time we got everything turned over and ready for the next day for Saturday to get ready for the birthday party. So we'd all get out of there about midnight on Friday nights. And we'd all be starving because we had speed skating practice before session on Fridays at 4:30. So we'd skate from 4:30 until 6:30 on Fridays. And then session would start at 7, go to 11. So I was there from usually about 3:30 until midnight. And of course, I was eating the whole time. I was at the skating rink back then. I would eat hot dogs and pretzels and all the good stuff, pizza, all the stuff that a skating rink snack bar has. It's a wonder I wasn't 5,000 pounds when I worked there. But the thing was, as soon as we left there, we would go to the Shoney's and they had a 24-hour like breakfast bar. And that thing was so good, even though it was probably so awful. Now that I think back on it, it was like those rehydrated eggs and just everything was kind of lukewarm, but I didn't care. I was, in my 20s and I tore that thing up. It was like $5, $6 or something. You bought a Coke. Oh my gosh. Shoney's was wonderful. Peter Shannon, my good friend up in Canada. Thank you for being a patron. Glad you're on the mend, Mike. I hope you and the fellow lizards have a great marathon weekend. Wish I was there maybe next year. Yeah. 2023 is going to be the year. I've decided. This year was awesome, but we missed a lot of folks. 2023 is going to be amazing. We're going to get everybody back. He says, I grew up in a small town, so we didn't have that exciting intersection like you did. It was a big deal when our town got a crappy pizza place. The story of your grandparents taking you out to lunch to the cafeteria reminded me that my grandmother would make my favorite dessert every time I visited her on the farm. I had 8 boy cousins around the same age as me. And when we were all at the farm, we'd all get our favorite desserts. It must have taken grandma days to do that. That memory lives in my heart as well. As always, great stories, Mike. Thanks for that. You know what, Peter? When we think back on our grandparents and our parents, especially when we get to kind of be a certain age, isn't it amazing what they did for us? Here's the terrible thing, right? And I think it's just how life works. Is that I look back and I was kind of an unappreciative jerk to my grandparents. I love them. I love them. And I was never mean to my grandparents ever, but I didn't appreciate them the way I should have when they were like in their prime years, like when they were doing all this stuff for me. I took it for granted, like grandma would do that kind of stuff. She'd make us all desserts. She would make us Sunday dinner every Sunday after church. And she'd make my favorite meatloaf and my favorite chocolate pie. And it was just like, oh, well, that's what grandma does. But I didn't really appreciate it. Unbelievable. I guess it takes age to figure that stuff out. Finally, Michelle Camber's got a final comment here. She says, and thanks for being a patron, Michelle. Good to have you here. Hey, Mike, glad you're feeling better. I was concerned when you disappeared for a bit. Hope marathon weekend is a blast. Let me just say this. Okay, so I got you guys. I love that we have this little kind of tight family here. Mike Bankhead comes up to me at marathon weekend when we ran into each other when we all got down there. And he comes up to me. He's like, come over here. He's like, I got to tell you something. I'm like, what, Mike? He's like, I was really worried about you. I said, what? He's like, it was the heart of college bowl season. There were so many college football games going on, and you were not talking smack on social media at all for days. He's like, I thought you either died. I thought you either were getting divorced. I thought something was really bad happening in your life. He's like, I'm so glad to find out that you just had a stomach bug and couldn't get to your phone. So apparently, if I disappear on social media and don't talk smack about college football for a few days, people think I died. So that was hilarious. I mean, I almost busted a gut. I almost popped a rib because I was laughing so hard when Mike said that. It was the funniest thing ever. Back to Michelle's comment. She said, my intersection was Woolbright and Federal. I guess how you said that. It's the corner where my grandparents and then my parents owned a gas/service station. I spent a lot of time there as a kid. Across the street was a Kmart and a pizza place where we'd go to often. Another corner was a lumber yard that I remember smelling so good. Yes, we had a lumber yard right next to the skating rink, and it smelled awesome. You're exactly right. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. There was a Publix and an S&H Green Stamps store behind the station and a McDonald's that had a pirate ship in the middle. It was always a treat to go there. It's changed so much now. The gas station is still there, but it no longer has the bays for repairs. The lumber yard is now condos. The Kmart is a high-end grocery store. The McDonald's is still there, but it's been gutted and no more pirate ship. Another comment about the Sunday paper. My parents always got it in every Sunday morning before church. My dad would make us all breakfast and lay our favorite section of the paper by our plates. I always got the comics and the one ads. Great topic and memories. Well, thanks, man. That's very cool that everybody got their section of the paper with breakfast on Sunday. I love that. Like before church, you got a little, light reading with whatever you want. That's so cool. Because the Sunday paper, I mean, honestly, when I think about it in the 80s at my grandparents, it was a big deal. We always used to kind of go through it after church as we got back. We always got back from church around noon. We'd have Sunday dinner at my grandparents' house. We always went to their house after church. And then the football games would kick in St. Louis. They kicked at noon. And so we'd usually watch the football Cardinals play, usually the Redskins or the Cowboys or the Eagles, because we were in the NFC East back then. And you'd look at the newspaper, and I was always looking at the comics as well. That's so funny. That's a great. I love this. We all live in different places, but our lives were like so parallel. It's so crazy. And by the way, speaking of Publix, I have now had a pub sub, and it was awesome. Scott and I got one when we went over to get groceries as we arrived into Orlando. And I'm telling you what, if there were Publix in St. Louis, I would have pub subs probably 3 or 4 times a week. That thing was good. We ate it in the parking lot like savages because it was so messy. He would not let us eat it in the rental because he's like, this thing's gonna get all over the rental. We're not eating it in the rental. So we basically tailgated we split the pub sub in half and tore that thing up as a chicken tender one. Oh, so good. So everybody that told me to get one, yes, you are correct. Okay. A couple things from marathon weekend. So of course I was kind of fighting that That stomach bug, like I said, it went away about 36 hours before I had to head down. So I was like totally scared I wasn't going to get to go. Cleared up. I was really worried about getting on an airplane when you got a stomach bug. You don't want to do that, but I was able to do that. Thank goodness. I was very lucky to do that. Got down there. People are asking about like, what do you do to get to the airport? Now that Magical Express is gone to your hotel and back. Scott had rented a car, so we took his. He got a minivan, so we rode over with Scott, Marlessa, and so it was like I'm trying to think. There were her significant other Frank rode with us. So there were one, two, three. There were six of us in there and a lot of luggage. We were packed in there, but that worked out fine. I will say, just we talk about this, I think, on one of the shows. I took an Uber from Pop Century at the end of the trip back to the airport, and it was a 27-minute ride from Pop Century to MCO. This was on a Monday morning at 8:15. It was 27 minutes. It only cost $38 plus tip. So if you're looking to use an Uber, that's kind of I'm not talking to you. Siri thinks I'm talking to her. But nope. But if you want to consider Uber, then there you go. It was like $38. Yes, it did. Okay, sorry. But yeah, it was $38 on a weekday morning, and took less than a half hour. I mean, it was very efficient. I mean, it gets you can save time over Magical Express. So that's an option. It worked well. I was single, it worked well for me, no problems. Let's see. So we do talk about let me just say I stayed at Pop Century. I didn't really get into the specifics. I stayed in the 70s section, building 6, floor 3. Uh, great room. If you're looking for a place to request at Pop Century, building 6 rocked. It's the closest um 70s building right there to the main areas. It's the one right next to the 60s building. It worked really well for a race weekend because what you could do is you could walk and kind of cut right through to the buses there and pop out at that end where the opposite end of the buses from the Magic Kingdom. It's the end where it's towards the Disney Spring bus bay, and that's where they kind of load the race buses. So if you're looking for a good building to request that's centrally located to the Skyliner wasn't very far away, the food court wasn't very far away, and also getting to the buses was quick in the morning. Building 6 was prime. I was on floor 3. Ideally, I would have liked to been on the top floor because that have meant nobody was above me for sleeping because, Pop Century, the walls are kind of thin and you are going to sleep, at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and people are still up and about. But it worked out really well. And I had kind of a room on the backside where I was overlooking Hourglass Lake. So I don't think that was a preferred room because I only booked a standard. But it worked out really well. So that was nice. I will say transportation though at Pop Century for all 4 race mornings was, I mean, honestly, it couldn't have gotten any better. It really couldn't have gotten any better. I mean, the buses were just stacked and you just walk right onto a bus. I never did wait in a line all 4 mornings. So that was amazing. I'm just thumbing through my pictures here to see what other highlights we have. The flight down was, very simple. Got there, drove over with, like I said, with Scott in the minivan. Um, the races we dive into all 4 races on the show on Friday, so I really won't dive into that because I don't want to kind of recap that. I will say having a grocery stop on a race weekend though was crucial because like I said, I lost, I don't know if I talked about this on the show, but I lost 7 pounds the week before going out for marathon weekend, which is not ideal. You're trying to keep your fitness. I couldn't run for that whole week before, and I'd planned on running all the way up to the day before. And so I was feeling really weak. So we did go to the grocery store. I got my Propel bottles to kind of get my electrolytes back. I bought Coke Zero. And what I was going to do for each morning for you want to have a little something in your belly when you're running distances. I was going to try to buy Uncrustables, those PB&J sandwiches, just to have in the room to eat each morning, like on the bus, just to have a little protein and a little, carbs in my system as I got out there. They had no Uncrustables at all in this Publix that we were visiting. So I bought Goober, which is, if you know, it's peanut butter and jelly mixed in a jar. And I bought some buns, some Wonder honey wheat like hamburger buns. And I made my own little sandwiches each morning. And those worked out wonderfully. So I had those each morning and that worked out great. I will say, just real quick, we ate one night at the Boathouse. I don't think we talked about this on the show. I had the The most I can't it was like it was a huge salad, and again, I'm not a fancy eater. I got a picture of it. It's like a big head of lettuce salad. It was tremendous, but there's no way a human could eat this in one sitting unless you're a rabbit. Um, but even the waitress is like, "Sir, that's a huge salad. Are you getting that by yourself?" And I think it's called the wedge salad, but it was great. Had like onions and bacon bits on top and stuff. It was wonderful. And then I got the sliders. Those were very good. The fries at the boathouse are tremendous. So that was a really good meal. Let's see, what else can I talk about that? I'm trying to hit the things that we didn't really talk about on Friday's show. I did not buy Genie Plus at all on this trip because we weren't in the parks all that much, and I'm trying to save my money where I can. I did get to ride Rise of the Resistance, however, because the morning of the 5K, that race started at 5 a.m. I got done. Studios didn't open until 9 o'clock. Early entry was 8:30. I was well back to the hotel by before 7 o'clock. Had a shower, even kind of laid down for a couple minutes, and with the Skyliner, I was over to the park, over to Disney's Hollywood Studios that morning. By I think I got there by 8 o'clock, and I remember that I was just going to go back and look and see what the line to Rise looks like, just so I had that knowledge at park opening for early entry. And when I got back there, the line was extended out to the entrance of Sci-Fi Dine-In. So I was like, "Whoa." But I was there, I was by myself, I was waiting for Scott to get over there, and I was like, "Well, I'll just jump in this line and see how fast it goes." And so I did jump in the line. It took about 90 minutes, and I got in line at 8:19. And again, early park entry didn't even start this day till 8:30. The park didn't open to the general public till 9, so this was well before even early entry. It took about 90 minutes, but I mean, I got to ride Rise of the Resistance without a Genie Plus. We tried to buy one that morning, but it timed out and they were sold out by the time we got back in. So technically it saved us 17 bucks because that was the price of it. So I got to ride Rise that morning, and that was kind of fun. Got to kind of take my medal around and get a couple pictures in there with that. Got to, of course, see the Christmas decorations at the studios, which was one of my goals. And we got to eat at ABC Commissary. Again, I've talked about this forever, the buffalo chicken sandwich. The buffalo chicken grilled cheese sandwich at ABC Commissary is to die for. Trattoria Al Forno was dinner that night. Again, lasagna was a killer meal there. Um, yeah, you got to get there. One of the things you might want to do with your race medals, if you're going down for Princess or for Spring Surprise, look around at those gold statues for the 50th celebration and maybe find some kind of tie-in with, and it could be like a loose tie-in, but maybe get a picture. Like there's a Mickey statue, so that was something you could take a picture with your marathon medal because Mickey's on the marathon medal. A lot of people were doing that, so that's something to think about maybe prior to your trip, like where you want to get some kind of unusual pictures with your medals. So princesses, think about that. When we went to the boathouse that night, we took the boat from Riverside. That's where Scott was staying, down to Disney Springs, and I can't tell you enough how pleasant that boat ride is on the Sassagoula River. Even if you're not staying at one of these hotels, say you're at Epcot, take a boat over to Riverside and then just walk through the resort, get on a boat, and go to Disney Springs. It is a pleasant experience. It's a great boat ride, and it's a wonderful way to kind of relax, have about 20 minutes on the river, and then enjoy Disney Springs. And when you're done with Disney Springs, you can take a bus back to your hotel. Let's see. We did Grand Floridian Cafe for lunch one day. Actually, brunch. I had the lobster burger. It's a burger with lobster on top of it. Pretty straightforward, but it's wicked good. It's super good. It's a killer burger. It's really good. Oh my gosh, you should totally try it. It's pretty tremendous. Of course, we had Olivia's, had to do that. Guess what I had? Buttermilk chicken. You guys know me. Had to have it. It was awesome. Always is. Let's see here. What else did we not talk about? So I didn't spend a lot of time in the parks. Actually, when I think about it, I only did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Rise of the Resistance. We did Muppets. I think that's all I did in the studios this trip. And in the Magic Kingdom, I think the only attraction that I did was the TTA a few times. I can't think of anything else I did. Oh, we did Tom Sawyer Island. We walked around Tom Sawyer Island. Isn't that a great thing? Yeah. For when you're running 48.6 miles, what do? Go over to Tom Sawyer Island and climb stairs and go over bridges and walk a whole bunch. That was not good. But it was fun. We hadn't been to Tom Sawyer Island in quite a while. We had the big meetup at the Outer Rim Lounge for the Be Our Guest podcast, Lizards. Thanks to everybody who came out. This was Saturday. a huge turnout for everybody that came and just and hung out with us. And we kind of took over that outer rim bar slash lounge area at the Contemporary. That was a ton of fun catching up with everybody. Thanks to Jocelyn for making not Jocelyn, Jennifer. Jocelyn, you get the credit because you were there guarding everything. Jennifer made all the name tags and so forth. It had great little like fist bumps or I would like warm hugs symbols so that we knew what everybody was comfortable with. I thought that was extremely cute. And also Jennifer, thanks for the believe sign. I'm flattening it out right now so that I can hang it up here in the studio. It's going to be amazing. Let's see what else. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention that if you're doing a race weekend, man, make sure that you have the memory maker somehow, some way. If you have it on annual pass, if you have to purchase it as part of your package, because I'll tell you what, these PhotoPass photographers on the course killed it this weekend. I got some great shots. I mean, I got some terrible shots too. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to make a post of all the shots where my arms and fingers and face and everything are doing extremely weird things during the races. Because again, my body was hurting a lot of the time. And I've some of these pictures, I'm like, whoa, man, I look like death warmed over. But every once in a while, I would see them coming and I would fake a smile and I would try to get my arms just right so I look like I'm a runner. And I got some pretty good pictures a couple of times here and there, especially at finish lines. So, yeah, do have the memory maker if you can. It is money well spent. I can tell you before Memory Maker was included in my first marathon in 2015 to buy your pictures just for the marathon, just for that one race. It was over $200. So it's worth it if you can do it. The night before the full marathon, we decided we were going to have Sanaa. We did that for our big meal before the 26-mile run. We had 2 bread services for the table, so we did it right. Everybody had buttered chicken around. I had some other chicken dish. They were all really good. Basically just grilled chicken over rice and a bunch of vegetables in a bowl. It was some fancy name. I can't remember what it was, but it was just a great time overall. I was excited to see that the gospel choir was back for the full marathon at mile 26 because they were not there for the half marathon. And they are they are my favorite on course entertainment. I was so glad to see them. And again, I was so excited that as I finished the marathon, which again, the marathon was a tough course. It was hot on Sunday. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. I love running the full marathon at Walt Disney World. I had a great time. But it was so much fun to get to come back into Epcot and spend those last couple hours cheering the rest of our lizards and just kind of random strangers coming in for the marathon and seeing the raw emotion of people that were really, really pushing themselves to the limit. It was mile 25 and a half there as I was cheering. And I was just proud of everybody that was they just kept going. They didn't stop. They didn't give up. And it was a tough, tough day. So I just wanted to shout out everybody who did that and everybody who, some people had to tap out before that point, and it was no shame in that because this was a tough day. And I'm telling you what, if you went 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles, you went farther than the 99% of the world's population. It was tough just to get to the start line on Sunday. And the fact that you went through all that, I'm super proud of you. I am 100% proud of you. I didn't even think I was going to get to go down to Walt Disney World. And I'm just proud of everything we accomplished together. And you know what? If you didn't get to the finish line this time, you're going to get there next time. It's just a starting point. So don't be disappointed. I'm super, super proud of everybody for that. And I know we're running really long. It's supposed to be a mini podcast, but I did kind of want to wrap this up with, we talk about Topolino's. I got to go to Topolino's. We talk about that on Friday, so I'll save that. I just want to kind of close this out because I'm going way long on this show. Is that I posted a picture last night on Instagram of that Joe takes these pictures. Joe Fickus takes these pictures each morning right before the races at 4:30 or 4 o'clock, depending on which race it is. And Jody Benning put together a collage of all 4 of them in one shot and posted it on Instagram. And I kind of stole it the other day. And I posted it on my Instagram. And the thing is, when this kind of whole thing started, I ran these races by myself back in like 2006, 2007. I would come down and just run the half marathon. I never trained. I didn't do any training runs. I just enjoyed the environment because I'm a competitive person. I enjoy the race environment. And I enjoy getting to go to Walt Disney World in January. That was it. That'd be my only run of the year, the half marathon in January. And then we had the podcast start and we decided to get a running group together. And, the first time that we took a picture together, the folks running, there were like 12, 10, 12, 13, 14 of us. And it was cool to have that many people all together, kind of with a common goal and doing the best we could for, to get these races in. And then I looked at this picture from these 4 pictures from this past weekend and the tremendous amount of people, but it's not even the amount of people that are in these pictures. It's the stories behind each person in those pictures that I know now. Yeah, I don't know everybody personally on the lizards. I wish I did. And I don't know everybody personally that's even in those pictures. But I'm getting to know more and more people that are in those pictures and more people that are on the lizards. And some of those people that I've gotten to know have become not just friends, but basically family. And I know so many people have overcome such great obstacles just to get to Walt Disney World for a race weekend. And it makes me so absolutely proud. And I want you to know it kind of comes back to this. You guys support the podcast here on Patreon. And it does mean personally, it means a lot to me because the podcast is a dream of mine. I love getting to do this podcast. Like I said, I always wanted to work in radio. It's kind of fun. This is really fun. I mean, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't fun. Recording the podcast every week is like the highlight of my week. I hope you guys always know that. I love this stuff. I love getting to rib Ricky and have fun talking Disney and all that kind of stuff, talking with Scott and Pam and everybody. And I love the live call-in shows, which once I get my weekends back, we're going to start doing those again. So be ready. But because of the show, connections have been made, listener to listener, and people have done more than you can imagine. I mean, the stories that I get to hear, because people come up to me and tell me, Mike, you got to hear this. Like, I would have never, ever, ever signed up for a race, but because of the lizards, I decided to give it a shot. And I mean, these are people that are not doing 5Ks. These are people that are finishing full marathons. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And I'm one of those people. I hated running. I was not going to play high school baseball because they told me I had to run 2 miles in under 20 minutes. And there was absolutely no way I could do that. And I still remember I made the high school baseball team, but I never, ever was able to run 2 miles in under 20 minutes. I couldn't do it when I was in high school. I could not do it. I told them they're going to have to cut me. Now, I was a pretty good pitcher. I was a left-handed pitcher. I was this tall guy, and I ended up pitching varsity as a freshman. I was kind of stubborn, but they told me, look, they're trying to light a fire under me, right? You have to run. That's the rules for tryouts. That's kind of like a non-negotiable. You have to run 2 miles in under 20 minutes in order to move on through the tryout process. But they kind of waived that rule. But the funny thing is that I was 16. Like, I was probably in the best shape of my life, or the prime. And like, I can do that now at 48, and I can do that over 13 miles, but I couldn't do that when I was in my prime. And the reason I can do that is because I'm inspired, I'm pushed, I'm supported by our community, by our lizards. And it's all because we have this thread, this community rallied around together. So thank you for supporting all we do. It's not just that you're supporting having a podcast out there on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It is that. But there's this underlying thing that it's hard to describe that is helping people live life a little bit better, a little bit healthier. And it's making true relationships each and every day. People are checking in on each other from Switzerland back to the United States, down in Mexico, up in Canada. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? It's pretty amazing. So thank you for your support. It is always appreciated. Each and every day I think about you guys, and I'm so absolutely thankful for you that we get to have this. It's not the biggest podcast in the world. It's not the smallest. It's pretty cool. It's bigger than I ever thought it would be, but it's the best. In my heart, it's always the best. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll make up that bonus podcast that we missed because of the illness and the travel and everything. But we're heading out to Indy this weekend. So hope you enjoy some of that coverage. We'll try to throw some of that stuff up on Instagram as well, so you can kind of see what's going on with all that craziness. But we'll be back again next Thursday and having a good time. But until then, you all stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.